Hello and welcome to my shop. My name is Tracy Maxfield and this is Hammer Down Woodworking. A few weeks ago I did a shop tour video of my shop, and in that video in the comments I had a viewer to leave a question asking if I would do a tour of the electrical hookups in my shop and how I got power to the tools in the middle of it. So that's what we're going to cover in this video. Okay, here we are back here. This is the east wall. This wall that this panel is on the east side. But first, before we start this, let me state that I am not a electrician, not a licensed electrician. I know just enough to be dangerous about it. But when I had this right here installed, this breaker panel and the pole on the outside, I did have a licensed electrician here with me installing this. And in Tennessee, where I'm at, and keep in mind that you have federal codes that everybody has to meet, and then your states will have codes that everyone in that state will have to meet, and they vary from state to state, and even some cities inside those states have even different codes. They can't change the federal and they can't change the state, but they may require something in that city when you're having something wired up that they require. So wherever you're at, be sure to check out the codes, federal, state, and then for the city that you live in, and go by those codes. And if you don't know how to do any wiring and stuff yourself, I would highly recommend getting someone who's licensed to do that for you. But this is the panel. I've got all the breakers that I need so far for the shop. I still have places that I can add more. On the outside of this is the entrance pole that has the outside, the meter and all that on it. Now, I did have a licensed electrician come and help me install this panel and install that pole out there. And after it passed inspection, then they hooked the power up to the pole. But in Tennessee and in the area where I live, there's 3 elements that's required in order to pass that electrical inspection. You have to have a switch, you have to have a light, and you have to have one outlet. And then you can be inspected. Then you can wire your building. Now this is here where I live. You can wire your building however you want to wire it. So I had a licensed electrician. This is a 200 amp service. I had a licensed electrician help me install all this, and right up there on top is the electrical outlet that I used during the inspection, and it now has my television plugged into it. As you can see, the TV right there. But that was the outlet that met one element. Also, I had the light. They allowed me to hook the light in that. And right here is the switch. Covers off of it right now. But that switch kills that outlet, which killed the light. And that was what I needed in order to pass inspection. Now, this switch is still hooked up, and it actually kills everything, including power to that television. When I turn that off, I have another switch by the entry door that this switch here just stays on all the time, and I can turn the lights off and on by that one. And of course, with this switch on, it keeps power to that television. But I've got kind of an unusual. I've never seen anybody do this. And if you've ever worked in a garage or a small shop, something of that matter, that was wired prior to you going into it. And everything in that garage, everything is hooked up on 120 amp breaker. And you got to say, for example, you've got your planer going, and those pull a lot of amperage. I don't remember exactly what they are, but you're on a 20 amp breaker, and you got your planer going, and you've got a space heater going, and every time you start to send a board through that thing, that breaker kicks, and you got to go to the panel wherever that's at, whether it's in the garage or it's inside the house or whatever, and you got to flip that breaker back. I eliminated that problem when I wired this shop. I have from this panel down this wall, I have 4 double gang boxes. Now this right here is the north wall. Right behind you where you're at now is the east. We'll call that the east wall, which it is the east wall. But I have 4 double gang boxes down this wall, and across this front end, which I've got, you can see sheet goods and stuff sitting out there. I'm in the middle of another project, but I have another four double gang. All the outlets in here are double gang boxes, but I have another one there, and there's another one on the other side of my clamp rack, which sits right below that lumber on the wall over there. There's another double gang there. Now the way that I wired this up is when I put these in, these four that is along this wall that runs all these tools, the outlet on the right side, and they're just daisy chained together, and these 6 boxes, the outlets on the right side are on a 30 amp breaker. All of them on the left, they are daisy chained together, and they have their own circuit. They're on a 20 amp breaker. And what that allows me to do is I can plug in, or I can be running the bandsaw, or be running a planer, and someone that plugs, or if I plug something into the 20 amp side, I can run that tool with that, and I'm on a completely different circuit, and I'm not kicking breakers. So in Tennessee, where I'm at, you're allowed 10 drops per circuit. So with these 4 down this wall, just for example, on the 30 amp circuit, that's 4 on this wall, and there's 2 on that wall, so that's 6 drops off that 130 amp. And I wouldn't want to plug 2 planers in and be running them and plug in a space heater in those 30 amp circuits, because when I exceed that 30 amps, that breaker's going to kick, and I don't do that. But I can plug into the 20 amp side with a space heater or something of that nature if I need one, and I don't kick that breaker when I'm running planer, if that makes sense. But all the 30 amps down this north wall and the west wall, there's 2 on that. They're on their own circuit, and then the left side, the 20 amps, they are on their side. So I don't kick breakers. Let me spin you around. Now on this, of course, you can't see it for the miter saw, but that right there is the south wall, and the wall behind is the east wall that's back this direction. But there's one, of course, you can't see it either, but you see the My Garage, My Rules sign hanging on the wall, the drill press in between the miter saw. You've got some panels sticking up. There's a 4 or double gang box there. There's one inside the box that was mounted to the wall, but when I made that hood for the miter saw, I had to move it inside that box, inside that hood. But there's one there, and there's one here, and then there's one on the back side of the refrigerator, and then there's one right here. Now the one that's on this back wall, and the one that's on the other side of the refrigerator, and the one that's on, or actually the 2 that's on that wall, on the south wall, they are wired up in the same fashion as the other outlets in this build. The one on the left is the 20, and the one on the right is the 30. And on that one, I only have 4 drops per circuit. There's 4 20 amps, and there's 4 30 amps, and they are on a 20 and a 30 amp breaker. They have absolutely nothing to do with these on this side of the wall. Now, as far as the 220 circuits, there's a breaker for this dust collection system. As you can see right here, there is a 220 outlet right there, and that is on its own circuit. Now, this air compressor, it is 220 also, and it is hard lined in. Of course, I'm not going to pull the insulation stuff out of my wall just to show you the wiring. The wiring is all the BMX cable. It's this flexible conduit. It's called BMX cabling. This right here, and it goes straight in and it's hardwired in. So unless I change that, this air compressor, it sets where it's at, because it's not a plug and play. It's wired in, and it stays wired up all the time. But now the 220 outlets, I have one for the table saw, that Powermatic. I have one for the joiner, and I have this one here that on this wall behind this dust collection system. that runs this, and each one of them are on their own 20. And there's another one for the mini split. I've got the joiner here on the bottom, and the mini split. The air compressor is this one. Here's the table saw. Here's the vac system. This right here is the two 30 amps for that north wall and the west wall, and then the other side of it, which it's a double, but it's 30 amps per side. The other side of it controls the 30 amps on the south wall and this east wall. Now this cabinet saw, I have it plugged in. It's got a pretty long cord on it. I have it plugged into a 220 outlet up overhead, and I've got it zip tied to this air duct, this PVC pipe for the vac system. I've got it zip tied to it to hold it over out of the way whenever I'm shoving large sheet goods across. But that power cord just goes across the ceiling back to the breaker box, and it's on its own circuit also. This table saw running on it's on its own circuit. The joiner's on its own circuit, and the vac system back here in the corner, it's on its own circuit, and the HVAC is on its own circuit. And that's one of the tricks to getting out of that throwing the breakers. Every time you turn something on, you turn two things on, or you have two things running on the same outlet, you have breakers start kicking. And you can eliminate that if you're wiring your building. Wire it up to where you've got options. And as you can see right here, this is the joiner's outlet. It has its own circuit. We're going to get to how I get power to the middle of the shop now. Right here's one of those double gang breakers, and I've got an extension cord plugged in on the 20 amp side, so I know I can't pull a whole lot. And I don't know what gauge this extension cord is, but if it kicks I've not had that issue yet, but if it kicks a breaker, then I know I'm overloading it. But it is zip tied and run with this dust hose overhead, and that goes to the assembly table. Let me show you that. This extension cord comes back down and is plugged into this power strip that I have on the back of my assembly table. And the only thing that power strip runs, which it has a circuit, surge protector circuit in it also, but the only thing that power strip runs is I have one wire or switch on the front of it, so I can plug in like a sander or a drill, or if it's electric drill. But I can plug in an electric tool in the front of that, palm router, whatever I want, and that's what I'm running. And it's no more than plugging the extension cord in your outlet and running it out the door and using something like that out in your driveway. But I've got an outlet hooked up on that I use on the front, and it also powers the air filtration system that I have built inside this table. And normally that is the only things it runs. And I plug my lathe into that. If I'm running the lathe, I can run it and run the air quality system that I've got built into this table, and I don't have any issues. Now, if I was running the lathe and I had someone else running a router, and I got that furnace fan blowing and stuff, I might have an issue. I don't know. More than likely, it's probably going to kick the circuit breaker that's in this power strip before it actually kicks the breaker. But, so far there's been no issues. There's not a whole lot. I know there's several outlets on that, but there's not a whole lot that gets plugged into it. Well, this little air quality meter, it's plugged into it, but I'd say that probably is not even pulling an amp. Now, these two table saws and the router table, actually since the shop tour, I've moved the drum sander to that wall where the router was, and I've moved the router over here. I'm just going to try it for a little while because I really need a whole lot of dust collection for that sanding machine, that drum sander. But these three are plugged into an extension cord that just runs across the floor over to this outlet. And this is the outlet. Here's the drill press and the radial arm saw, and here's those panels. This is the one I was talking about earlier. There's an extension cord plugged into it. that the table saws are hooked up on. And there's never more than one of those running at one time. Sometimes if I'm rolling something heavy across the floor here, I may have to unplug it to keep from damaging my cords, but most stuff that would come across that won't roll over that extension cord anyway. It just wants to slide in under the wheel, so I've got to do that anyway. So I'm not really worried about damaging cords because I just don't run over them. And if it's something that's light enough, I'll just pick it up and set it over to get the wheels over that cord. Now this outlet here in this corner, now this is up in the corner of my tool wall, is right here to this side, behind the workbench. I do, in this box right here, I do have a piece of that BMX cable, 12-2 wiring, that is plugged in on the 30 amp side, and it comes down and under the table and is hooked to an outlet that I have mounted on the side of this table. And more often than not, the only thing that's plugged in that is charging the cell phone. I do from time to time, like a palm router, have that plugged into it, or some type of sander or something that when I'm working here at my workbench and need it over here instead of over there. But this one's on the 30, and that extension cord over there is on the 20 amp side, if that makes sense. And I don't have to worry about it causing any type of issues from drawing too much. Anyway, that's how I done my shop. I kind of broke everything up to where there's not too much on the circuit at one time. But be sure to familiarize yourself with the codes in your area if you're going to be doing a building, or if you're going to be changing some of the things that you've got in your shop. I hope you found this helpful. That's just the way that I did mine. I'm not an electrician by no means, and I know just enough just to get me by. And I did have a licensed electrician help me wire that panel in the entrance pole on the outside in, and got it past inspection. Then I could just do whatever I wanted to in here. And so far, I've not had any issues at all. It has worked out good. Let me ask you, if you liked the video, if you found it helpful, give me a thumbs up. If you haven't already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It really helps us out. I love seeing that those subscriptions come up, and that lets me know that I'm doing something that you enjoy, that you find beneficial to you, which is the whole purpose of this channel, is just trying to help someone out. But if you don't care, hit that subscribe button. I'd really love to see that. And until next time, thanks for watching.